4th, 2019 Milton Planning Board meeting to opening. First on the docket is public comment. This will give people time to talk about anything or comments to be made other than anything is on our agenda. So I will open it to the public right now. Not hearing any. Next on the agenda is a public hearing for the proposed lot line adjustments. RE, the adjusting boundary line between map 34 lot 45 and map 34 lot 46, both at 152 Middleton Road, Milton, New Hampshire, resulting in an increase to map 36 45 of 10 acres and a decrease in the area of 36 lot 46 of 10 acres. Timothy Merrill, applicant, 152 Milton Road, Milton, New Hampshire. Yes, sir.
Put this up over here so the audience can see.
Sure can.
My name is Ted Wright. I'm a land surveyor. I work for Norway Plains Associates. And tonight we're representing the Merrills in this. It's pretty straightforward. He's got a 5-acre lot now and he'd like to have some more land and do whatever he wants to do around it. And they're taking 10 acres out of the abutting piece. I can't think of much more to talk about them, but if you've got any questions, I'd be glad to answer them for you.
Have all the fees been paid?
Not as yet.
Not yet.
No, Mr. Chairman, the application is complete, the process was followed, the public notice went out on time, the abutters were correct, and the abutters notices went out. The fees have been invoiced
Okay.
to the Merrills, and the reason why they haven't been paid yet is because we didn't have anybody in town hall that knew how to figure out what the fees were when the applications were made. So
Okay.
that's run out.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board?
No.
Comments? I'll open it up to the public. Any questions or comments on this? Not hearing, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the board. What's your decision, gentlemen?
I move that we approve.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Have a good evening.
Thank you very much.
Chairman, we got a couple of people who couldn't get in because of the elevator issue. Can you maybe wait a couple of minutes for them to arrive?
Yep.
Just keep on around.
Keep it going, yep, we're on our spaces. Thank you. Next on the agenda is the public hearing for revision of the existing 2012 site plan to add accessory uses, campground amenities, to relocate existing trailer storage at the Mighty Joe Campground on property located at 111 Mighty Joe Road, Milton, New Hampshire, map 28, lot 4, in the low-density residential zone. Three Pound Resort LLC owner, SFC Engineering Partnership Incorporated applicant. At this time, I'm going to turn this meeting over to the town planner. He has a statement to read into this. Bruce?
Mr. Chairman, as you know, on May 7th, at your May 7th meeting, the planning board voted to accept the application for this revision to an existing 2012 site plan for Mighty Joe. And subsequent to that, on June 3rd, the town received an application for an appeal of your decision to accept the application. Now, one question that I had for the town council was whether or not the appeal was premature, or whether, was there a decision made when the planning board accepted the application? And the answer came back from Laura Spector Morgan at the Mitchell Group, and I'm going to read it into the record so that the board will know at least what direction to take after that. Her answer was that the appellants cannot appeal the acceptance of the applicant to the zoning board of adjustment. However, I think a fair reading of this is that they are appealing the planning board's interpretation that the zoning ordinance is satisfied. That is a proper appeal to the ZBA at this time. There is a relatively recent case law that says you have to appeal such decisions within 30 days of them being made. You can't wait until the end. And then the second paragraph says, so do put this on the ZBA's agenda as an appeal from the planning board's decision that the zoning requirements are satisfied. But the zoning board should not hear any evidence or make any determination regarding whether the application is complete outside of that context. And then she says, please let me know if I can be of additional assistance. And I signed Laura. So it's both the town council's advice and your planner's advice that you do not hold the public hearing for this case tonight. And in fact, you wait until the planning board adjudicates this appeal.
ZBA.
The ZBA, sorry. The
That's all right,
ZBA
yeah.
adjudicates, I did that twice today.
Yeah.
Adjudicates this appeal. So to keep from having to send out hundreds of abutters notices again, it's within your power to table this public hearing to a date specific. My suggestion would be July 16th, which is your regular meeting, your second regular meeting in July. And that would be needed if the zoning board comes back with a decision to uphold your decision that the zoning was satisfied in accepting this application.
Thank you. I'll bring it back before the board. Would you all like to table this until a date specific?
I'll move that we table till July 14th,
16th.
16th.
I'll
At 6:30. Yep.
One second.
At the Amorands. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. So we'll see everybody here back July 16th.
Yeah.
Stuff for the hot tub step is turning. Do you want that stuff for the hot tub step? I don't know.
Just hang on.
I have it.
Just hang on. Okay, thank you.
And as I said, June 27th.
That was his birthday. Big box?
Just likes to steal his shit and make it sell. He doesn't want to show up. It's all right. Just like to steal his shit out, not show up.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Bang the gavel, please.
Oh, did I?
I like him as a person.
How about a big, how big?
Green extension cord, if you want to throw that to me.
Right, show up. They do it worse, but I enjoy watching. Much more effective. Then they know exactly where it is.
Nick, where do you want it?
I'm still the one. Still, but
I just look at it and I go, oh, I so want to.
Oh, yeah.
We do what I go.
That's it.
Yeah, puts it on the floor.
if it doesn't reach, there is the floor.
Yeah, Nick.
Actually, there's another one in front of you too, Brian. You would gain a little bit.
Yep.
Brian.
You got one right there on the floor. You didn't remember, you guys made us do it.
I don't.
AM sitting here being.
What if we turn?
I haven't said anything.
I don't think that's going to be okay.
I want to dive right into it.
That is the
No, I shouldn't.
craziest I've ever heard.
Is that enough?
That was quick.
And have a projector mounted up. I think right in front of that one would work. My concern is I don't knock it over on everybody.
I'll scream.
I know you will.
Where's that one come?
You need me to move?
Yeah, really.
You move, I can't take a straight shot.
I don't think I can sit here talking to me right.
Be nice.
The targets are requesting not to move.
Yes.
You can move, but it isn't going to look good.
That's the figure out more of it. It's going to Texas.
You should figure that out.
Yeah, I do. I do.
You want the lights down?
Yeah. And I tell everybody I talk to, it's like,
Can't just move one back.
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, there's only one, there's only one.
There's only one switch, yeah.
Yeah.
The school board was
You need those lights dim?
What you need
They've done a second, they've done one.
You need to have a petition.
Right, you gotta do a petition to make a warrant.
Petition, but how many signatures you have?
Not a lot.
Like 25, I think,
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah, that.
They'll bring that.
You'll get 4 more.
Yeah, it just makes sense, you know? That's nice.
Yeah, Mike, I hope you need something to put under that.
We got an adjustment here.
Want one of these?
As long as nobody's upset about being crooked, we'll be fine. No, it's this thing, yes.
So,
Get that worked out.
Tell you, I hit Powerball, went by a ridge, you know, we have more.
Y'all ready to start?
You guys are.
Okay.
You wanna buy my ridge?
Next thing on the agenda is the capital improvement program project submittals. Presentation by the fire chief, review updated CIP spreadsheet. Nick?
All right, so I updated the PowerPoint from last year, just to kind of review everything that is entailed in the forms that you guys got last week. So, capital overview, this is the type of stuff we're talking about. Obviously, the apparatus, the air packs, cardiac monitors, thermal imagers, extrication tools, the boat, and so on and so forth. This is the updated fleet sheet. So we added engine 2. You guys have that, right? That was, they have the fleet sheet? Okay. So I'll go through this real quick, but please at any point stop me and ask questions. So I updated the 2019 replacement cost to $510,000 for a pumper. That is still a very conservative number. Very conservative number. And like I said, any questions, just let me know. So what are we talking about for this period? 2020, we're gonna try to purchase a used ladder truck. I'll get into the details of that here shortly. 2021, we'll purchase a tanker, which is the same project that we had in 2018 and 2019, and then we amended at the end of last year for that, at that special meeting. So we pushed that out to 2021. The command vehicle was pushed out to 2021, and if I can push it out another year beyond that, I will. But like I said, it's got low mileage and it's doing okay, but in New England, vehicles can turn quickly when they get 8, 10, 9 years, you know, that age. And then add funding for engine 2, which is the vehicle we just purchased last fall, to replace that in 5 years. So, engine 4, this is the same information as last year. What's changed is originally we were going to replace it with a custom pumper tanker. Now, because we have the extra pumper in the fleet, I'm comfortable replacing it with a standalone tanker. And that will basically allow us to buy a much more economically priced vehicle. And I have the pricing here somewhere. This is all the same information as last year. Basically, engine 2 will end up going to Milton Mills when engine 4 is replaced. And the tanker will run from station 1.
But the pumper tanker that you proposed for last year, the numbers across the years have changed.
Yes.
And that's in the application that the planning board has, and it's also on the big giant CIP spreadsheet. So the numbers,
So the vehicle last year, at this time, 1 year ago, was $530,000. It was for a dual purpose pumper and tanker. So it was essentially a pumper with an extra 1,000 gallons of water, which meant it had to have a tandem axle, a bigger motor, which is what caused the price to go up. where it's just a single axle, standalone tanker, doesn't have, you know, crew carrying capacity and all the extra compartments for, you know, tools and equipment. That's why it's so much cheaper. So, I think I have the price in here.
$380.
I have it, $350, I believe. That's all the stuff we did with engine 4, same slides as last year. So it's gonna look more like this. That one was out of the Midwest somewhere, built by the manufacturer that we typically use, and it was like $320 last year. So it had a couple of years to it. We'll budget $350 for the sake of discussion.
So we may need to look at the numbers, because I used the numbers you gave me, and it comes out to 380.
That's with interest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or inflation.
So the budget, obviously the cost of the vehicle will be about $350,000. So my plan is in 2020 to put $40,000 in the capital reserve. And then the remaining balance will be a lease over a 5-year period, and $68,000 for 5 years, and that comes to $380.
That's right.
The first payment would be due in 2021. So that's my cost reduction plan, which is a direct result of adding engine 2 last year. Any questions on that? So the ladder truck, 34 years old, we purchased it 2007 roughly out of Somersworth. It's been a good vehicle, but it's definitely tired now. So every year we get a annual inspection done on it, and the list gets longer and longer. Right now it's at 2 pages, just a lot of small things, but it all adds up. A couple years ago, I think, it failed its annual test. It was out of service for 4 months because the piston needed to be replaced. A lot of the parts, there's shims that need to be custom built for it that guide the ladder as it extends in and out. They're all worn. They'd have to be custom made. So the cost in 2016 and 17 to fix everything on those lists was about $16,000.
Yes, Larry?
Automotive. Bearings are available in standard oversizes, just for when, if you're doing an engine rebuild. Is there a manufacturer which supplies a range of oversized shims so that you can buy them off the shelf? If not, why?
I don't know. It's a good question. I don't have an answer. Obviously, you can't read that slide, but I will have this presentation emailed to you. Basically, it goes over the uses of the vehicle and why we need a ladder truck. Picture right there was down on Charles Street last year. Obviously, venting a metal roof, you don't really want to be on that with a chainsaw and a ladder. So we use aerial ladders. All right, here's the important stuff. The replacement cost of a 10 to 15-year-old vehicle is about $150,000. A new one, $850,000, $950,000, $1 million, depending on what you put in, where you buy it from, what the manufacturer is, so on and so forth. 16, 17, and 18, we applied for a federal grant, which will cover the entire cost of the vehicle. It does require a 5% match. Currently, that application is still pending, so if the heavens shine on us, maybe in July we'll have a brand new one here, but I would not count on that at all. So my plan is to put $25,000 away next year. And then we also have an outstanding air pack grant. And if the air pack grant is awarded, we'll have enough money in capital reserve to purchase the $150,000 ladder truck used. If the air pack grant isn't awarded, we'll be back at the drawing board next year. So I'm more hopeful that that air pack grant will get awarded than I am the ladder truck grant.
If those things don't happen and you still put away the
We still have $25,000.
$25,000,
Yep.
that'll just go into the capital reserve fund
Correct.
to be saved for a future purpose.
And if something catastrophic happens to this one, we can try to find something for $25,000, which would be a very temporary thing. But it at least put some seed money away for Plan B, which I'd be sitting here next year presenting to you. I've called the federal grant people about every other week for the last 3 months, and they're switching to a new program, and they're having all kinds of problems with it. So we should have known. They were peer reviewed and scored probably 3 months ago, and it's been dead quiet since. Even the people that I call and get inside information from don't have a clue what's going on. So I was hoping I'd have information by the time I got this to this point tonight, but I have nothing. And they have nothing. So we're kind of in limbo with that. Any questions on that? I know it's a lot of options and variables, but it's the best I can come up with at this point. And the reason I did move it up originally, this was in 2021, is it's unlikely that it'll pass the ladder test again in January. Every year the guy comes back and says, hey, this, and this, you better start thinking about a new option, because this is getting to the point where at any given time it's going to fail and we're not going to be able to put a sticker on it for you. So, and they don't sell aerials, they're strictly an independent testing company. Rochester's backup ladder just failed, and that's 7 years newer, completely out of service. Like I talked about the command vehicle, the 2012. I pushed it out a year. We'll just play it year by year. If I can push it out another year, I will next year. But in the meantime, we'll just keep adding 5,000 to the capital reserve, so at the point that it does need to be replaced, we'll have the money there. So engine 2 was the vehicle we purchased last fall. You guys was everybody here when I did the presentation last fall?
Yeah.
Were you, Matt?
Yeah.
Okay. So $5,500 is what we purchased it for, with the intent to get 3 to 5 years. In this plan, I pushed it out, try to get the full 5 years out of it. It's been a good truck. We've had it for 6 months. It's been on a handful of calls, so we're happy with it.
So the money that you have in the spreadsheet
Yep.
is for the 2025 replacement
Correct.
of this used one that you bought.
Yep.
And that is reflected here, starting in 2021, and it goes up incrementally over the next 5 years.
Correct. And I did that strictly for financial stability, whereas, and I'll get into it in a couple minutes, it's not the right number if we want to be able to purchase it in 5 years. So my plan that you guys have is to add incremental increases over the next 5 years, and then we have a couple options. We can either add more than I recommended and purchase it outright with money from the capital reserve in 2025, or we can put away the money that I have recommended, and then whatever the balance is, enter into a lease agreement, which in 2025 is the same year that the tanker that I'm proposing would be paid off. So that's how I kind of staggered it a little bit. And I'm hopeful that if we can put incremental amounts of money away over 5 years, that the lease payment would be equivalent to or less than the tanker lease payment when we enter into that agreement. Also very gory, but you have it in front of you. So $70,000 is the recommended capital reserve contribution this year, which is the same as last year. And it was broken out 40 for the tanker, 25 for the ladder, and then 5,000 for the command vehicle. Next year, 2021, would be the lease agreement for the tanker. Sorry about that. And that first year's payment would be raised. So I asked for a smaller amount to be contributed to capital reserve. Again, it should be the full 70,000 again, but I was trying to get that bottom line down. And I think I increased it 5,000 a year. So since last year, engine 2 was purchased, the funding for engine 3 was pushed out. Since engine 2 is now the older piece of apparatus, the funding for that came in. We'll worry about engine 3 down the road. Originally, we were funding small amounts every year until it needed to be replaced. The year it needs to be replaced doesn't really change, but the funding priority is now the one we purchased in the fall.
I wanted to ask you a question about that. Again, looking at the spreadsheet, the last line, it says 2029 replacement of engine 3
Yep.
pumper, but you don't have any funding starting in this 6-year period at all. Is that really what you intended?
Yes, for strictly financial purposes. I mean, we should be putting away the cost of the truck divided by the next 10 years every year. But if I added another $100,000 to the spreadsheet, that would.
I just want to remind you that the only year that the town is going to raise any money for the capital improvement is this yellow column. That's the capital spending year coming up in 2020. The 5 years after that are planning years. They really don't, they're fluid, they can change, as you know. So I mean, if you really are planning on
My plan was
starting
to,
to put away incremental amounts for that,
in my mind, the plan was when in 2025, so next year, 2026 would show up, and the money that was going to engine 2 would then go to engine 3, and that would go on till 2029, and then enter into a lease again at that point, or push it out another year and keep going that way. So, I'm aware that it wasn't there. Is it the perfect situation? No.
I think the board will let you know whether they want to see those numbers anyway,
Okay.
because that's why they're called the planning board.
Yeah, just so you guys know, this was very much financially driven, a lot of this. My plan would be substantially different if money wasn't an issue. So again, the engine 4 was pushed out 2019 to 2021. Last year when we did that supplemental meeting last fall, I wasn't real sure how I was gonna fit that into the schedule, but this is what I came up with. So total reduction of capital spending is by $40,000 in 2020. And then it was, that was pretty much spread across the board. So this is what I was kind of just touching with Bruce on. The capital reserves aren't funded at the annual replacement cost level, which is the fleet sheet. It says we should be putting away $125,000 a year to keep up with it. So we're not there. The scheduled fleet replacement dates are beyond the recommended standards. Fire pumpers are 20 years. I've bumped them out to 25, which is more realistic to what we've been getting out of them. But again, it's beyond the standard and beyond ideal. I keep forgetting to put ambulance 1 into this CIP because I don't think of it as requiring the funding. It's coming from the ambulance revolving account, but I'll put that in next year. That's 2022, 2023 roughly. The other thing that will be in the CIP for next year, and I just don't have the numbers yet, is radio infrastructure upgrades. The tower on Tenerife is probably older than I am, and we have a lot of radio communication issues, and as technology progresses, it's going to get worse. The repeater was purchased in 2005. That's already not supported by Motorola. That was a grant-funded project. There's lots of dead spots in West Milton that we need to address going forward. And I've got a lot of communication between both counties and ourselves as far as plans on how we're going to address that, but I don't have enough to put numbers to it and get it in here, but that will be coming, and it's becoming a priority.
Christian?
All right.
On communication, dispatch, Do you see any major changes in provider and costs thereof coming that may represent difficult relationships with present providers?
No. I think things are good with present providers. If things were to change, there'd have to be a lot of changes.
Good, okay.
It's a very political subject, let's put it that way. And we're at the best place we can be for the money we have to spend
Uh-huh.
currently.
Okay, thank you, that's the answer I was hoping.
Another thing that we stopped funding probably 8 years ago was the Vehicle Maintenance Capital Reserve Fund. I think it's time, if we're gonna drag these vehicles out to 25 and 30 years, that we start putting more money into that. Currently, there's about $60,000 in there. Just a refurbished paint job on engine 3, we're talking over 30,000. So if we're gonna keep that truck for another 20 years, 15 years, whatever it may be, I know we talked about 2029, but I know how this town works, so it'll probably be 2039. It's gonna need,
You're learning.
So are there just primarily specific companies that do the painting?
it'd have to be big fire apparatus shops to deal with the manpower it takes to disassemble the vehicle, put it back together, and you're talking like a 3 to 4 month process.
Command vehicle, we own that outright? Was that
Correct,
leased?
yep. That was purchased in 2012. We had a grant for half of it, traded in the old one for 10,000. I think we actually took 10 or 15,000 out of capital reserve, so cash into it, we only had like 15 grand.
And so when we go to purchase the new one, we'll trade that one in, put that towards the price, is that what we're doing?
That was my original plan, yes. Unless for some reason there's no trade value and we have other uses for it, like we do with the police cars, but I think that we can get enough money. And that's part of the reason I wanted to trade it in sooner, instead of dragging it out to get more money on the trade, but it's only got 45,000 miles on it, 42,000 miles on it or something, so.
Yeah, it's not a hard 45 either.
No. It's gonna be the frame underneath that'll be the problem before anything else.
Mhm.
That's why I say year to year, we'll kind of keep an eye on it. So to summarize everything, talked about the 70,000, how it'll kind of be earmarked. Try to purchase a ladder. Again, that's contingent upon us getting an SCBA grant. And there's no change in the contribution of the CRF, and there's no change in the capital leases. The only outstanding capital lease we have is the radios, and that, the final year will be 2020. And then those will be paid off.
For the communication towers that we have,
Yep.
those are exclusive, just all our equipment on that tower?
No.
Okay.
Stratford County has equipment on it. Stratford County actually owns the lease for the land. So they pay the lease to the property owner that the tower's on top of Tenerife.
Mm-hmm.
We put the tower in, whatever that was, years and years and years ago. We put the shack in. So Carroll County has stuff on there that's used for dispatching Milton Fire. Stratford County has stuff on there that's used for dispatching Milton, Farmington, New Durham, Middleton Police. And then the Highway Department has a local frequency on there that they use.
So does anybody else contribute? Anybody that has equipment on it, do they contribute to the cost of a tower?
That's what I'm working on.
Okay.
And then if there's additional space, possibility, that's where you really get your money back, the bang for your buck, with the big communication companies that
Yeah.
want to put a little.
So one of the things
box
we're
on
gonna
it.
have to do is, where I'm at basically is, we have to raise the height to get above the trees that have grown up there, which is part of the reason we can't get into West Milton. The other issue is, the radio frequencies were narrow banded 3 or 4 years ago, so the waves are different than they used to be, and they don't sink into the valleys and they can't get over the hills, the ridge. So So as far as who else is contributing, right now Stratford County pays the least, like I said.
Mhm.
I'm trying to work out stuff where they can help pay for some of the tower, the county itself. And then the Mutual Aid Association that we belong to, Osprey Valley Mutual Aid, they have money set aside for radio repairs and upgrades. So I'm trying to get that whole group, which is basically from Milton to Conway to the lake into the state of Maine, that all the fire departments in that area belong to Osprey Valley Mutual Aid. And they've got money set aside, like I said, that we contribute, the taxpayers of Milton contribute to the mutual aid, and it can cover that type of stuff. How much they'll want to contribute to a tower that's solely for Milton, that's yet to be determined. It's what I'm working on.
Is it all the trees or just certain trees?
I don't have a good answer. It's the only thing I can come up with, though, is what's changed. Narrow banding and the trees have gotten bigger.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Down the trees.
Or we find a new site that's higher. But I don't think, Steve? Steve? No, Steve. I don't think Steve wants it on the side of the hill. So,
But
that's what I have, so I'll be happy to answer any questions.
rather than ramp down your CRF contribution abruptly,
Mhm.
and I'd rather see you put a slice of that, at least, not, understanding that you've still got to make the numbers add up,
Mhm.
but into that maintenance. If you're pushing vehicles from 20 to 25 years,
Mhm.
that's, you got a plus over there, but
Yep.
you need to have a corresponding
So instead
slice
of
to
putting
go to the
70
maintenance.
into capital reserve, put 65 and then 5,000 a year into the maintenance one potentially.
Yeah.
And we've been lucky, we haven't touched it. We haven't touched it since I've been chief, that's why we stopped putting money into it. But in the past, we've, like a $10,000 motor job in engine 4, right after we got it. And we did probably $10,000 roughly into the ladder truck motor shortly after we got it. But complete refurbs like rewiring, painting, corrosion protection, or taking the corrosion out, repainting it to try to get that last 10 years. Because engine 3 is a 2005 right now, and if you look at it, it looks fine. But you go around, it's around the window, it's starting to bubble, the hinges are all starting to bubble, and that just kind of progressively get worse. And if we need to get a minimum of 10 years out of it, how bad is that going to get? Is it worth $30,000 for paint? I don't know, I have a hard time with that, but
Preservation is generally the most expensive feature of, whether it's a vehicle, a submarine, or what it is.
yeah.
The majority of that budget goes to preservation. So, federal
Probably
government-
big picture, it makes sense rather than buying a new truck. And the other thing that really has my attention is the cost of the vehicles. Rochester just bought one for $600,000. That the vehicle that they bought 5 years, which was pretty much identical, was under $500. 5-year period, $100,000 plus increase. It's just, and that's why I had to reevaluate this whole pump and tank thing, because that truck's pushing $600,000, and it's not going to be sustainable in another 5 years.
There's a limited number of companies out there that offer them, right?
The-
Very few.
More question on the ladder truck. One complete joke. Have you checked out the Mexican black market for used ladder trucks?
I think that's where we got this one.
More seriously, is the problem with the ladder truck the exposure to contaminants and heat at the fire site, or is it just a function of mechanical wear that would happen if it were in an air-conditioned aircraft hangar going up and down?
Yep, the second one.
Second one, just
35 years old and just wear and tear. And it doesn't get used a lot. That's why we're talking about a used one. Even a used one, you can find a good one, or you can find one that's completely played out. That's why I say 150,000 plus or minus, because once we know what we have and we go shopping, there's a million different kinds, and finding a used ladder truck is going to be easier that'll fit our community than finding a used pumper to fit our community, or finding a used tanker to fit our community. I've been looking at used tankers And to be honest with you, there's not a lot out there that will work for what we need. Whether it's because they're from the Midwest and they do things completely different out there, they don't even put pumps on them. Or the motors are so small because everything's flat, or they're just really set up bizarre for whatever is unique to that community. And then the other thing is, they get used to haul water at fires, so people keep them forever. Once you get one, you're gonna hang on to it, as opposed to like a ladder truck. A lot of communities, they're using them every single day, so the newer ones are getting replaced because they're maintenance nightmares after a while, like we're experiencing with ours. So they don't wanna deal with any maintenance, just get rid of them after 10 years, get rid of them after 10 years. A lot of people, a lot of departments down in like Pennsylvania, Maryland, the Mid-Atlantic, they have more money than they know what to do with. They just cycle through trucks. But also, again, part of this whole thing is those communities tend to be more urban communities, so they don't have things like tankers to be able to cycle through. You know, it's a big picture thing, and unless you really spend a lot of time figuring it out.
When pumpers are going over to stainless steel for the internal piping, so that will work to your advantage.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, okay.
Correct.
So that should make things easier.
Should.
They have built-in heaters.
Newer ones do. Yeah, our newest one does. But again, adds to the cost because now you have a roll-up door on the pump panel.
Absolutely.
Keep the heat in, and those aren't given away. That was probably a $10,000 upgrade in 2013 when I bought that truck.
You know, the chemicals in the water, the standing water, that, you know, minerals, all that plays into part, right? So if you neutralize that water, so just sitting there and
Right. The other thing too, the other caveat to why I wanted to put away money incrementally until we were able to get a lease is if something happened catastrophic to one of these older vehicles, we'd at least have a couple $100,000 where we could make an emergency purchase. Whereas otherwise, we'd have to wait for a vote and hope we get a lease approved. But that was kind of the plan, incrementally at it, and then, you know, we get $350,000 in 5 years, and the truck that fits our community is available, then maybe we'll take a look at it. But I think over the course of an entire life cycle of a vehicle, it's cheaper to buy a new one than it is to purchase used ones.
you know, piggyback off what Bruce was saying, to have something in outlying years to show us and remind us, whether we put that in the upcoming capital year or not, it'll keep reminding us that that's what we should be doing, instead of not having anything there.
Yep.
Then we, you know, forget all about it and go, oh crap, that's gonna be expensive.
Yeah,
That's why we have the CIP in general.
and I'm totally open to feedback as far as, do you want me to be completely honest with this whole thing, or do
No
you want me to
sense.
make the numbers work? I mean, because
Without having the honesty, I
Humphrey
think there's
probably
no
wants me to
sense in
make the
having
numbers
the
work on
capital
the budget
improvement
committee,
plan.
but
Right. We need to have the honesty so we know what we're looking at, right? We can't make decisions if we don't have the honesty there.
great.
So that's where the communication comes with all parties.
We saw what happened last year with this year's budget.
Yeah,
And, you know, who's to say it's not gonna happen again?
Right, that's something we don't control, so.
and I'd rather put away $70,000 and know that it's gonna pass and we'll get it, than ask for $125,000 and get put a year behind every time it happens.
Oh, absolutely.
So, again, we can make this work, but it's not really the way it should look.
Right, I mean, for the outlying years especially, when, you know, we're not looking at it, to have that in there, it's no harm, no foul. It gives us an idea what to look at coming up versus, and then we make the decisions on what you want to do on the year in question.
So, just to be clear, you guys understand the whole pending grant for the air packs? I'm hopeful we'll get it, but again, there's no guarantee. If it doesn't happen, then we're moving forward and we're not buying a ladder truck, and we'll try to put away $25,000 and hope that one keeps passing, or if it doesn't, it doesn't, and we'll just come up with a plan C or D or something.
Or we get a new development in town that's gonna pay all these, increase our,
With a four-story building.
yeah. Right.
So, anything else?
Good.
Mr. Chairman, you do have 3 members of the Budget Committee in the audience.
Mm-hmm.
Tonight they were invited, and if you want to give them a chance to ask any questions that they may have, I'm trying to be.
Feel free.
I know we're meeting again tomorrow night with Nick to go over the individual budget issues.
And I have
He's answered most of the questions, and he's got a pitch for us for tomorrow.
I got a revised, down and dirty summary of that
Yeah.
for these guys tomorrow night too.
Yeah, the focus of your meeting tomorrow really is for your general budget and not for your capital purchases, so,
But we're gonna have some of that.
yeah, good.
I'd ask questions, except I missed most of his presentation, so.
And you sneak in behind.
Sneaky that way.
I did want to ask you, Nick, if you would mind if, again, looking at the spreadsheet, and everybody can do that, under that 2020 replacement of truck one ladder used,
Yep.
would you be okay with us adding a little clause in paragraph that says, or capital reserve fund if not able to purchase? That kind of makes it more clear for everybody, I think. And then under the last one, 2029 replacement of engine 3 pumping, would you be okay with our adding a in parenthesis clause that says, future funding may begin after the 6-year cycle?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was part of the thing, like engine 3, I left it on there, but I could have just removed it, because there's no capital expenditures going to it, but I wanted to show everything that eventually needs to be replaced.
Yes.
I do agree, though, that you do need to put some information down about the radio equipment and things like that. At least have it down there, even if
Yep.
the funding's not there, we know that you don't wanna forget what's gonna have to be done down the line, so.
Do you want me to do a Form A for that, or?
Well, I think
No
that
money
if you
attached.
know that this is coming within 6 years, and you have to fund it within 6 years, it really should go into the capital improvement program with estimated costs. I mean, you're not gonna ask for money in 2020 coming up. But you can put some estimations of, you know, incremental funding through the next 5 years after that.
I've had a quote out to figure out how much the tower is gonna cost to replace, for probably a month now, and just haven't had anything back yet.
So we put the notes in there about, though, the county is part of that as well. Because that's part of the funding for the lease.
The county and mutual aid.
Right.
I'm trying to get the county to pay for the whole thing, but they keep saying they have no money.
They take enough.
I'm working that angle hard.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you guys.
Thanks.
And I'll email this to you guys. That,
Yeah,
or
no worries.
to you, and you email it.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll make the changes and then I will send you the documents. And you're gonna send me the form, but I'll fill this in.
Where'd you find the screen?
Downstairs, where it did not belong. It's okay. Better than that, I might as well throw that thing away.
Okay.
I'll say you find the top to it.
We get an auction coming up, we'll put it in.
Somebody's desk.
So, Mr. Chairman, the
Yes, sir.
second part of this is for the board to take a look at this spreadsheet.
Right.
And again, as you know, this is an iterative draft as we move through the process. So if there are any questions for the board or recommendations on what I can do to make this more understandable, I know those comments are welcome.
Shall we move on to planners' comments?
The only thing that I would say is that at your next meeting, which is coming up in, when is it?
It's gonna be July 2nd, I believe.
Yeah, July 2nd.
Our next meeting, no, it should be,
Should be the 18th.
should be the
June.
17th or 18th.
There's one on the 18th.
June 18th.
June 18th.
June 18th, we are in 2 already this month?
No, we're only on the 4th.
Today's only the
of June.
4th.
At your
Wow.
next meeting,
Trying.
you also have, I think, a number of department heads that are gonna come in and present. And I don't have the schedule, so if one of you would look at it and read who is coming in, I think for the people that are
He's
here.
very organized.
Peter's got it handy.
He
Yeah.
just got it.
Peter has
No,
everything.
without Dana, you know.
We're working on it. I think we got a good replacement.
CIP schedule.
Yeah,
This is a
I
test.
think I got that one filed.
I'm gonna have to go try to beat you. I don't know, mine's way messed up.
You might win.
Where are we looking for? CIP
The one
sound.
scheduled one. The graph. It should be that right here.
Yeah, flip it.
Now we have actually, to help all of you with your CIP binders.
This organization is finest.
You notice you haven't seen me pull mine out yet.
Even I don't have them.
What are these? Yeah, you can smell it.
Oh, there it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Perfect.
6/18, rec, sewer, water, DPW. No, we moved DPW. Last one.
Say that a little louder, Joe.
This is dated April 19th, so,
That's it.
okay. So,
On the 18th, we have rec, sewer, water, and DPW.
So the big one obviously is
DPW.
the Department of Public Works. Pat Smith will be here. And then after that, the next side is the Recreation Director. And she'll be presenting with Pat on a couple of projects maybe. I don't know who will be coming in from water and sewer yet. Because I haven't heard back from them.
you get a good idea.
They do have a couple of studies in the out year.
Hmm.
It would be nice to hear about why those studies are important again.
No, that's gonna be quiet in a second too. No school participation.
So that's at your next meeting on June 18th. That's my only comment.
Okay. How about approval of the minutes
I make a motion, we approve the minutes.
of May 21st? Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Mr. Chairman, I have a point of order, if I may.
Sir, we are not run by Robert's rules.
Pardon me?
What's the point of order? Is it anything to do with the business we're doing right now?
Yes. I read the minutes and I found a couple of things that I thought were not accurate, so I thought I would raise them with you if you're willing to hear me.
Proceed.
Okay. The minutes reflect that, you remember that I raised the question about whether you should recuse yourself, Mr. Chairman. The minutes reflect that occurred during the public comment portion of the meeting. But the public comment portion of the meeting can't have anything about anything that's on the agenda. It actually occurred after you started the meeting on that agenda item, and I specifically waited for that. So I thought that the minutes should reflect that that occurred after you started the hearing on the application from Two Ponds Resort. And the second thing that I noticed was, I thought that the board approved the request for waivers, but the minutes say that it didn't. But at the same time, the board accepted the application as complete. And I'm not sure how you can accept the application as complete, but not consider the waivers. So those were the 2 points that I thought should be raised.
Thank you.
But that was the May 7th meeting.
That was the May 7th meeting.
We're doing this 21st.
And you've already approved those in your previous.
Right,
meeting.
this is the 21st.
Well, but the May 7th minutes didn't become available until just a few days ago, so.
Well, they were ready for us for this meeting,
They were,
the
they
21st.
were posted
Well,
right
okay.
after they were approved at your last meeting.
They've been on the
Well,
board.
then,
Yeah.
So the minutes go on the board outside, but they don't get actually posted on the website until the boards approve them.
Right.
So if you're just looking on the website for them, that's why you probably didn't see them. I don't know if you, did you come into town hall and look at
well,
them?
I just don't know when the time is when somebody can raise a question on the minutes if you're not actually coming every day to the town hall to see them, or if you're not relying on the website. It's just a point of order.
Yep,
I've raised my point.
thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I could answer the question about the waivers. The board can't approve waivers before a public hearing. So
Right,
you.
we just
if you're going
accepted
to
the,
accept a case, the waivers being asked for have to be noted that you will take them up. And that except for those waivers, the application is complete. That's standard procedure. You absolutely can't approve waivers outside of a public hearing. And when you accept it, it's not a public hearing, it's board business.
thank you. Okay,
That was my motion.
other business.
We haven't voted yet, have we?
On the minutes?
Do we
I thought we
vote on
did.
minutes?
No.
No, we didn't.
No,
Okay.
we didn't actually vote.
Yeah, I
The
didn't.
motion was made and second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstained. I wasn't here.
Okay. Other business? Nobody's got anything?
Ashley?
Has the board all met Ashley?
Nope,
Okay, Ashley, you're on.
once, right? Just once.
Our new land use clerk, everyone.
Okay, that's other business. How about the next
I'll
motion?
make a motion to
Adjourn.
adjourn.
A second. Have we got it? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Look at that. You're 23 minutes ahead of NCIS, Bobby.
Oh, there is heaven.
Trouble is, it's in a repeat season.
Oh. Well,